All right, here's the deal. We're about to tackle one of the biggest questions humanity has ever asked. Is the universe eternal, or is there something or someone beyond it that created everything? This isn't just some philosophical mumbo-jumbo. This is the kind of question that shakes up your reality, makes you rethink everything you thought you knew, and trust me, by the end of this video, you won't look at the universe or your place in it the same way again. But before we get into the mind-blowing proof, let me hit you with something. Have you ever wondered why you exist? I mean, not just you specifically, but why anything exists at all? Why isn't there just nothing? It's the kind of question that keeps even the smartest people on the planet up at night. And for centuries, we've been stuck between two big ideas: either the universe has always existed, or there's something outside of it that made it all happen. Now, here's where things get crazy. For the longest time, people believed the universe was eternal. It just was. No beginning, no end. Philosophers like Aristotle, religions like some in the East, they all thought time and space just went on forever. But then, something changed. Something huge. Scientists started realizing that this whole eternal universe thing doesn't hold up. And the proof? It's not just a theory, it's backed by hard science. Let's break it down. There are these things called space-time theorems. Sounds fancy, right? But they're actually pretty simple once you get the idea. They're based on two facts. First, the universe has mass. You, me, the planets, the stars were all proof of that. Second, the way things move in the universe follows Einstein's equations of general relativity. These equations basically describe how massive things like planets and galaxies interact with space and time. And here's the kicker: if these two things are true, and spoiler alert, they are, then space and time had to have a beginning. They can't stretch back forever.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Let me hit you with a simple analogy to make this real. Imagine you're holding a balloon. The surface of the balloon is like space-time. Now, as you blow air into it, the balloon expands just like the universe is expanding right now. But before you started blowing it up, there was nothing. No surface, no space. That's what the theorems are saying. If you rewind the clock far enough, you don't just get a smaller universe, you get no universe. The balloon doesn't exist. And that's huge because it means time and space had a starting point. But wait, it gets even crazier. Scientists didn't just come up with one theorem to prove this. They've developed over 30 different space-time theorems, and they all point to the same conclusion: the universe has a beginning. And the proof for this is insanely precise. Back in the day, we could only test Einstein's equations to about 1 or 2% accuracy. But now, we can test them to more than 15 decimal places. That's not just good science, that's bulletproof. So here's the big takeaway from part 1: the universe isn't eternal. It had a beginning, and if it had a beginning, something or someone must have caused it. And that's where things start getting really interesting. Stick around, because in the next part, we're diving into what this means for you and your place in the universe. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. All right, we've established the universe had a beginning. But here's the billion-dollar question: what caused it? And before you say, "Oh, it was just the Big Bang," let me stop you right there. The Big Bang explains how the universe expanded. It doesn't explain why it started in the first place. It's like watching a firework go off. You can describe how it explodes, but you still need someone to light the fuse. So, what could have lit the fuse of the universe? There are only two options here. Either something inside the universe caused it or something outside the universe did. But here's the problem with the first option: there was no inside the universe before it began. No time, no space, no matter. Nothing. So whatever caused the universe has to exist outside of it. It has to be timeless, spaceless, and immaterial, something that doesn't depend on the universe to exist. Now think about that for a second. What kind of thing could exist outside of time and space? What kind of thing could create everything out of nothing? This is where a lot of people start talking about God. And honestly, it makes sense. A timeless, spaceless, powerful being fits the description perfectly. But here's the twist: this isn't just about religion. This is about logic and science. Even if you're the most skeptical person alive, you've got to admit that something outside the universe caused it. And whatever that something is, it's unlike anything we've ever seen. But let's take it deeper. If the universe didn't create itself, and something outside of it did, then that something has to be uncreated. Why? Because if it was created, then something else would have had to create it, and then something else would have had to create that, and so on forever. You'd end up with an infinite chain of causes, which is impossible. So we're left with one conclusion: the cause of the universe is uncreated. It's eternal. And here's the irony: while the universe itself isn't eternal, the thing that created it is. Let that sink in for a second. Now, here's a question for you: if the universe had a beginning, and something eternal caused it, what does that mean for your life? Because let's be real, this isn't just about abstract ideas. This is about you. If the universe was created on purpose, then so were you. You're not an accident. You're part of something way bigger than yourself. And if that doesn't change the way you see your life, I don't know what will. In the next part, we're going to connect all the dots. What does all this mean for science, faith, and how we live our lives? Trust me, the best is yet to come. So here we are. We've proven the universe isn't eternal. We've shown that something outside of it, something eternal, had to create it. But now comes the part that really hits home. What does this mean for you? What's your role in this crazy, massive, created universe? Let's start with science. For years, people thought science and the idea of creation were at odds. But guess what? The more we learn about the universe, the more we realize how perfectly designed it is. The laws of physics, the constants of nature, the way galaxies form, the way life exists, it's all so precise that even the slightest change would make life impossible. It's like the universe was fine-tuned just for us. And if that's true, then you're here for a reason. You're not just a random collection of atoms. You're part of a design. But here's the real kicker: if the universe was created, then the Creator knows you. Think about that. The same force, the same being that created galaxies and stars and black holes also created you. Not just humanity in general, you specifically. And that means your life has meaning. Your choices matter. You're not just a blip on the cosmic radar. You're part of a story that's bigger than you can imagine. So, here's the challenge: what are you going to do with that knowledge? Are you going to keep living like everything's random and meaningless? Or are you going to start asking the big questions? Who created the universe? Why are you here? What's your purpose? Because if the universe itself isn't eternal, then neither is your time here. You've got one shot at this life. Don't waste it. And that's the shocking truth: the universe had a beginning, but it was created with a purpose, and so were you. Now it's up to you to figure out what that purpose is. The question is, Are you ready to find out? All right, let's keep this going because we're not done yet. If you've made it this far, you're probably starting to feel the weight of what we're talking about. We're not just discussing the universe or some abstract science. We're talking about something that shifts your perspective on everything. And here's the thing, with this kind of knowledge comes responsibility. You can't just hear this and go back to living the same way. So let's dig even deeper. Let's go back to the idea of purpose for a second. If the universe was created and we were created as part of it, then purpose isn't something you invent. It's something you discover. That's a huge distinction. So many people today are walking around trying to find themselves, trying to create their own meaning. And look, I get it, life can feel overwhelming, chaotic, even random. But if the universe itself isn't random, if it was designed with precision and purpose, then you don't have to wander aimlessly. Your purpose is already built into the very fabric of existence. You just have to figure out what it is. Now, here's the question: how do you discover your purpose? This is where it gets practical. You start by asking yourself the big questions. What are you passionate about? What are you naturally good at? What do you care about so deeply that you're willing to sacrifice for it? These aren't just random traits you have, they're clues to your purpose. Think about it. In a universe this perfectly designed, do you really think your unique talents, passions, and abilities are accidents? No way. They were given to you for a reason. But let's take it a step further. Purpose isn't just about what you do, it's about who you are. If the universe was created by something eternal, then you're not just a physical being. You have a spiritual dimension too. And that part of you is just as real as your body and your mind. In fact, it's probably the most important part of you. Because when this universe eventually comes to an end, and yes, science says it will, what's going to matter isn't the stuff you owned or the things you achieved. What's going to matter is the kind of person you became and the impact you had on the people around you. So, let me hit you with a question. Are you living in alignment with your purpose? Or are you just going through the motions, letting life happen to you instead of taking control? Because here's the truth: knowing the universe had a beginning, knowing it was created with precision and purpose, should light a fire under you. You've been given this life for a reason. Don't waste it. And here's another thing to think about. If the universe was created, then the creator must care about what happens in it. It's not like they just set things in motion and walked away. The precision of the universe, the way it's fine-tuned for life, suggests that the creator is deeply invested in what happens here. And that means they're invested in you. Your choices, your actions, your relationships, they matter. You matter. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking: this all sounds great, but how do we really know there's a creator? What if the universe just popped into existence on its own and look? I get it. That's a valid question. But here's the thing: everything we know about science, logic, and causality tells us that nothing can create itself. The universe couldn't just come out of nowhere. That's not how reality works. Something outside of space and time had to cause it. And whatever that something is, it's so powerful, so intentional, and so beyond our understanding that the word God is probably the closest concept we have to describe it. But let's not stop there. Let's talk about what this means for the future. If the universe had a beginning, then it's also going to have an end. That's just how physics works. Stars burn out, galaxies collide, and eventually the universe will reach a state where no new energy can be created. Scientists call this the heat death of the universe. It's the ultimate reminder that everything in this physical world is temporary. And that's why understanding your purpose and living it out is so urgent. You don't have forever to figure this out. None of us do. But here's the hope in all of this. If the universe isn't eternal, but the Creator is, then there's something beyond the universe, something eternal. And if you're part of the Creator's design, then a part of you is connected to that eternity too. That's where your real hope lies, not in the temporary things of this world, but in the eternal reality beyond it. So, let me ask you this: what are you doing today that will matter 100 years from now? What about 1,000 years from now? If the universe is temporary, then the things we often chase, money, fame, power, are temporary too. But love, kindness, truth, those are eternal. Those are the things that align with the Creator's purpose. Those are the things that matter. And here's the final challenge: don't just take my word for it. Go out and investigate this for yourself. Look at the evidence. Ask the hard questions. Think about what kind of life you want to live in light of this truth. Because if the universe isn't eternal, then you can't afford to waste your time acting like it is. You've got a purpose. You've got a Creator who cares about you. And you've got a choice to make. What will you do with the time you've been given? This is the truth that shifts your reality. The universe had a beginning, and so do you. But more importantly, the universe was created with purpose, and so were you. Now, it's time to live like it. All right, let's push this even further, because this isn't just about understanding the universe. It's about how you take this knowledge and turn it into action that transforms your life. If the universe had a beginning, if it was created with precision, and if you're a part of that creation, then you're not here by chance. You're here for a reason. But the question is, what are you going to do about it? Let's start by addressing something that a lot of people struggle with: the idea that your life doesn't matter. Maybe you felt like you're just one tiny speck in a vast, uncaring universe. After all, when you think about the sheer size of the cosmos, the billions of galaxies, the trillions of stars, it's easy to feel insignificant. But here's the truth: size doesn't determine value. Think about DNA, the molecule that contains the instructions for life. It's microscopic, yet it's more complex than anything humanity has ever created. Your value isn't based on your size or your position in the universe. It's based on the fact that you were intentionally created, and that changes everything. But here's where things get real: knowing you have a purpose isn't enough. You have to live it out. And living with purpose means making choices, sometimes hard ones. It means asking yourself tough questions, like, am I living for something that really matters? Or am I just going through the motions, chasing things that won't last? Because here's the thing: if the universe itself isn't eternal, then the stuff we often focus on, money, status, material possessions, isn't eternal either. So why waste your life on things that don't matter in the grand scheme of things? Let me give you an example. Think about the relationships in your life. Are you investing in them? Are you showing love, patience, forgiveness? Because at the end of the day, the people you impact are going to matter a lot more than the things you own. If the Creator of the universe designed you to have purpose, then part of that purpose has to do with how you treat others. You weren't created to live in isolation. You were created to connect, to build, to love. And let's talk about fear for a second. A lot of people are afraid to pursue their purpose because it's risky. They're afraid of failing, of looking stupid, of stepping out of their comfort zones. But let me ask you this: if the Creator of the universe is eternal, and you're part of that creation, then what do you really have to fear? Failure? Rejection? Those things are temporary. But living a life without purpose, that's the real tragedy. Because someday you're going to look back on your life and ask yourself, did I do what I was created to do? Did I make the most of the time I was given? Don't let fear stop you from living the life you were meant to live. Now, let's address another big question that might be on your mind. If the universe was created, and I was created, then what does the Creator want from me? That's a huge question, and it's one that people have wrestled with for centuries. But here's a simple way to think about it. If you were designed, then the Creator probably wants you to live in alignment with that design. Think about it like this: if you buy a car, and the owner's manual says to use gasoline, you're not going to pour orange juice into the tank, right? You're going to follow the manual because the people who made the car know how it works best. The same is true for your life. Living in alignment with your purpose isn't about following a bunch of arbitrary rules. It's about living the way you were designed to live. And what does that look like? It means pursuing the things that matter most: love, truth, kindness, justice. It means using the gifts and talents you've been given to make a difference. It means treating other people with the same care and respect that you'd want for yourself. And it means looking beyond the temporary stuff of this world and focusing on what's eternal. But here's the catch: living with purpose isn't always easy. It's going to require sacrifice. It's going to require effort. And sometimes it's going to feel like you're swimming against the tide. But think about this: if the Creator went to the trouble of designing the entire universe, if they fine-tuned every law of physics to make life possible, don't you think your life is worth the effort? Don't you think your purpose is worth fighting for? And here's one more thing to consider: if the universe had a beginning, and if it's going to have an end, then the time you have is finite. You don't have forever to figure this out. That's not meant to scare you, it's meant to motivate you. Every day you wake up is a gift. Every breath you take is an opportunity. So don't waste it. Don't get so caught up in the distractions of life that you forget why you're here. Now, let me leave you with a challenge. Take some time today, not tomorrow, not next week, to think about what really matters to you. What are you passionate about? What do you want your life to stand for? And then ask yourself, what's one thing you can do right now to start living in alignment with that purpose? It doesn't have to be big. It could be as simple as reaching out to someone you care about, starting a project you've been putting off, or even just taking a moment to reflect on your priorities. The point is to start. Because the more you take steps toward your purpose, the clearer it will become. And remember, you're not in this alone. If the Creator of the universe cared enough to design the cosmos with precision and purpose, then you'd better believe they care about you too. You've been given everything you need to live a life that matters. Now it's up to you to take that first step. So here's the bottom line: the universe had a beginning, and so do you. But what you do with your time here, that's up to you. You were created for a reason. You have a purpose, and the world needs what only you can bring to it. So go out there and live like it, because when you align your life with the truth of your purpose, you don't just shift your reality, you shift the world around you. Now, it's your turn. What will you do with the truth you've just heard? That's the question only you can answer.